Hi there, everyone. Are we okay? We just had a little bit of technical difficulty. I just want to check in with our technical person. By the way, thank you so much to Rob. His last name is Teichman, but I'm going to call him Techman. And then our other.
Oh, that's such a bad.
Thank you also to Sonia for setting us up. And finally, I just really want to give a shout out to Susanna for making sure we're all ready to rock here. Very super duper cool that our team is always just so on top of things. Just want to check in with Rob. Are we good to go, Rob? Yay, success. Okay, good, you guys. All right. Lamb, we can't hear you at all. Did you mute?
Yeah, are you sure about that?
Yeah, okay. Hi, everyone. This is Jennifer Hough, and my partner, Sweetie Pie, king of my world, Adam Lamb. Hi, Sweetie. And this is a free class. If you didn't know what you signed up for, this is a free class all about ending self-sabotage. It's sort of the beginning conversation of a program that we do called Get Out of Your Way to Fluid Relationships. And it'll give you a real sense of that program. And in the meantime, what we're going to do is some pretty deep work today. So if you're looking to transcend, our clients are people that want to find freedom in every way. Freedom about abundance, freedom about relationships. Our clients are not people that just want tools. They want a permanent cellular shift. And so that's the work that we do. The work that we do is around a permanent cellular shift. It's about changing the entire way you relate to life in a very short amount of time without having to analyze the living daylights out of your past to get there. It's about activating the truth of who you are, and by doing that, you come up and you see the world in an entirely different way. So all of those habitual ways of being that have stopped you in your life actually just they become incredibly uninteresting pretty instantaneously. And that's why we can move through hundreds of belief systems that stop us instead of just addressing one thing that's stopping you at a time. So it's a whole other way. So we really ask as we go through today that you listen from your heart and from your cells and from your instincts. You let it in. So has everyone agreed to that? All in favor of actually really getting the $1 million class today? Say aye. and yay, Adam, me too. I say aye too. I'm going to even turn, yeah, so yay. So the other part of it is that so we could intellectually listen, but what we're asking you to do to really get the value out of today is to listen beyond the words and feel, because that's how we transmute the, let's say, intercellular density as well as all the, even the subatomic spaces where you're holding the stuff that stops you. So for some of you that might sound a little woo-woo or a little out there, but as we go through the process you'll see it's pretty juicy, and you'll find a lot of freedom when it comes to self-sabotage. So please listen, not like you know what we're talking about already. Listen beyond that. Listen deep. Listen cellularly. And we'll say more about that, and we'll give you the agenda. We'll do all of that. But I just wanted to first introduce Adam and share with you that today is not just about love relationships or romantic relationships. It's really about every relationship, because the things we're going to converse about, even the stories we're going to tell, are not just about Adam and I. They're far beyond that. They're things from our past and all sorts of things that are going to not only assist us to go deeper, but also show you the difference between just intellectually moving through stuckness, the difference between doing that and actually changing your default way of relating to life so that you can be free. and you can really be seen and see others and know that you're powerful enough to actually change lives around you by shifting your own magnetics. So it's all about effortlessness. So from there, I just want to say that Adam and I met about, what, almost 4 years ago now, sweetie?
It'll be 4 years, May 18th.
See, that makes me all mushy that he remembers that. So
kind of hard to forget.
It is kind of hard to forget. But Adam and I have been through, I would call it a cosmic car wash of transmuting. I mean, neither of us really expected what's happened with respect to our relationship. And for me, I came from a place of perfectionism, protecting myself in every way to the point of being incredibly shy and very, very, like, about life, scared of people, scared of judgment because I was scared I would never get it right, so I was scared people were going to judge me. I came from a place in relationships where even in work, I wouldn't even take a job that I didn't know that I couldn't perfect. Everything was about if I did a bad job, and there's a reason for that, which we'll get into, or that I wouldn't be liked. I even was so perfectionistic that the husband that I had found checked every single box that anyone on the planet would go, oh yeah, that's good, that's going to work, that's good. It's like what he did, he was a president, he was, made lots of money, we had a nice house, blah, blah, blah. All of those things related to the identities of a man marrying a woman. But the problem was, in my heart, I was completely unfulfilled. I did not feel full. And I knew always there was more. And maybe some of you have felt that in life in general, that there is way more life, and I want to share with you, and we want to share with you that, oh my God, is there ever? So, even the identities of being a leader and a coach were fantastic back then because I could keep everyone separate because I was the leader. I was up here and everyone else, and everyone looked to me. That way no one ever really got to know me. So that has all shifted, and it's been the most amazing and scary journey to really letting myself be loved and seen. Even on our business team, it's a team of equals who I am very vulnerable about my foibles, with whom I am very vulnerable about my foibles, and just allowing my sweetie to adore me in every minute, and just really letting in that, that love that we share, and allowing us to go down that rabbit hole of he and I together. Has been just amazing. So, what about you, sweetie?
Well, I think you and I were kind of in the same for vastly different reasons. Where I was kind of how shall I say on the other. I've been the dark side of town, but I my entire life basically giving the universe and most of my relationships the high hard one, and only desperately wanting to be connected, everyone else kind of at arm's length position. And there was, from my ego's perspective, there was pretty good reason. I collected lots of evidence why I should feel the way that I did. Yet I knew it was a sad place for me to be. So, and it turns out that I'm a pretty happy-go-lucky kind of person, and very often I'm the most goofy person in the room.
Well, unless I'm being the most goofy. Okay, so let's just be clear.
True.
Yes, we're pretty silly. So, and sweetie, the two of us have really come a long way, huh? It's been quite a journey.
Good more, sweetie pie.
So guys, although you'll hear us calling each other sweetie pie a lot, I'll try to be serious and call you Adam, so that, you know.
Oh, that would be nice.
You know, I wouldn't want to alienate anyone. So,
So I just want to check on the Google Hangouts. I just changed the microphone settings, so someone can shout out to say that I'm coming through better. Yes.
Okay.
Lindsay, Betty Lou, Dagny. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, baby. All right, you guys. Yeah, I mean, I know, Adam, even for me, it was like, even when we first met, I know we were both totally living out protective identities, right? I had this thing going on of being the coach, and like, not, you know, I had that trying to keep you away from me too much because I could still be on a pedestal a little bit.
Yep.
And you had that kind of like untouchable tough guy thing going on.
Yeah, I had it perfected pretty well.
So, you know, we've both come a long way, and we've talked about our love relationship, but also in our relationships and work, come so far, and even with friendships, you know, which we'll talk about. I mean, I used to be extremely selective and very scared to let people in unless they were extremely safe people to me. So what a perfect guy I manifested. Someone who's like dangerous, right? My magnetics matched it perfectly, just so I could scare the pants off myself and go on a journey. So, you guys, so in this class, we are going to give you a sense of what it looks. Yes, sweetie. Yep.
I just wanted to interject really quickly, because I didn't want to infer that the way I was being was only affecting my romantic relationships. I was carrying a pretty big chip on my shoulder in all relationships, and it affected me in business quite adversely. And for a long time, I couldn't touch the bottom of the well where that resided. I just knew that it was, not to say that I would become reactionary, but it was almost like, as I said, a chip on my shoulder that had me kind of unbearable. All the while, I thought, you know, I was being the leader. Right. I was actually playing out pretty successfully. So.
Sigh. It has been quite a journey. So Adam and I are going to share how we changed our default, how we didn't excavate the living daylights out of all the reasons why we've been that way, and why you might be the ways that you are, which will be vast and wide and even beyond what we've shared already. In fact, we'd love it if you would type in, and for those of you on the phone, you can write down in your book, but type in, guys, on the webinar, what ways of being do you notice that you have in your relationships at work, and your relationships in love, and your relationships with your family? What are the default ways that you are being that are so frustrating? Because you see yourself. Oftentimes we know that we're doing it, right? We know exactly that we're doing it, and we know that it doesn't work, but we keep doing it, right? What are some of those for you? So just type them in. We'd love to see, and we'll speak some of them out loud because, you know, just so you know you're not alone, right? And again, we want to welcome big time all the people that have never been on a workshop or in a class with myself or Adam before. Just welcome. So happy to have you. We promise that by about the middle part of today, you're going to feel things moving, a lot of things moving, probably things that you didn't even anticipate. So we really ask you that you let it rip today, because we're going to let it rip. I mean, some of the stories we're going to share are really very personal, and but we both know, and probably you guys know too, that this isn't. We are not on a pedestal. We're not your gurus. Who we are is, we may have unique superpowers, but we also know that you have unique superpowers. It's really time for us all to come together and assist each other to make the shifts. And Adam and I have made part of our life's mission to find the deepest, most amazing wormhole when it comes to connection. In fact, we were watching the other day an amazing TED Talk, which we'll probably post on facebook.com/Wide Awakening. It's a TED Talk about depression, and the gentleman was saying that the number one reason why people feel depressed is actually because of a feeling of disconnection from others and from life. And that's like saying, I have the key to my Ferrari, but I can't figure out how to get in the door. And so I don't know how to drive this amazing vehicle. And we are just called to make sure that not only do you know how to get in that Ferrari, but you have the power to drive it like a master, because that is what human beings are. We're this amazing Ferrari that has the capacity to just fly and affect change and magnetically shift the people around us. And that's what's possible for all of us. So in a minute, yes, Mr. Lamb?
I just wanted to kind of share some of these ways of being that they're kind of rocking my world, because I see so much of myself in here. Bonnie's saying, hide my authenticity. Leslie says she's out there. Thomas is the different one. No one understands me. Betty was the joker. Suzanne Jenkins, they all depend on me.
Yep.
Just amazing stuff. There's several comments like Dagmar and Tracy saying, I can do it on my own. I'm independent. I'm a warrior. I don't show any vulnerability. Millie's saying independent. Myrta's saying independent. I mean, it's like, yeah, I see so much of myself in a lot of these.
Yeah, and I wonder,
kind of
I wonder how many people have that independent one, because I find a lot of our clients, it's like, don't you find that a lot of people we work with, and also you and I, never mind, Doy, right? that it's like we've hurt. We're so sensitive to life, and we so love that one of the ways to protect ourselves is to become independent and not even let other people in to help. Like, we almost become defensive to outside help sometimes. So,
right.
What are more of these, sweetie?
Linda's saying I'm not allowed to be here and have even the basics of life. Martina blaming the other for old wounds. Jenny, unavailable men falling in love with me. So that, which is great at being safe, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if the men are unavailable, then that's a great one.
Yeah.
Bigfoot's saying he turns on the light and attracts bugs like Rudolph. I mean, there's some amazing ones. Bonnie saying she gets taken out by loud, angry people. There was just some great. I know it. Sabine is. I know it better. The coach type.
Yeah.
Keeping a safe distance. Susie saying she doesn't speak her truth about situations, especially confrontations, when I think my words might hurt or upset somebody. I had an experience very much like that, right about the time that I decided that my life was going to change.
How's that, sweetie?
Not too long ago.
You want to share that?
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about this whole thing about relationships, I mean, having it all handled, or having any kind of defensive mechanism around relationships in order to stay safe, I think speaks back to probably one of the reasons why we've got over 550 people on this webinar, is because I think for most of them, they feel the calling of a deeper type of connection, of being able to develop more poignant and satisfying relationships. And as you and I were talking about last night, I think the first step of that is not only a recognition, but a willingness to change.
Yes.
Like, very often, being coachable or being willing to step into a different paradigm of relationship. And, thank you for everyone being here as a testament to that calling.
Yeah.
Which I think maybe even in the conscious zeitgeist right now, this deeper calling to more significant and poignant relationships. But for me, it was a willingness to stand for myself, because I was really, really good at allowing other people to believe what they wanted to believe, so long as it didn't cause confrontation. Because when I was growing up, my parents could very rarely have an argument without it coming down to a full-blown shouting match, and then my dad sleeping, on the hideaway bed in the family room, and my mother upstairs, and there's no way to have. There's no way to be able to speak your mind without, or speak your truth without it coming down to a complete disaster in the relationship. And I took a job with a young lady there with me, who was clearly unhappy, as I was. And one night I actually tell her in a very loving and thoughtful way, I thought it was important for her to rejoin her life in New York. And that was probably one of the very first times that I actually spoke my making it up about someone else or about anything else. I basically, and that I couldn't see how the relationship could be sustained, and that I thought it best for her to go back. And even though I knew that she would be happier, I couldn't make it up about her. I had to take responsibility. I was feeling, and that turned out to be a pivot. I could kind of redirect a lot of energy that I would spend in pleasing other people into starting what I came to realize was.
Mm. Yeah, it's a big deal, right?
Did you have a similar experience? Something like that?
I would say that for me, the greatest experience of making the change. See, when you told that story, Adam, what I heard is like, okay, so, it's like standing for yourself, like when I hear you speak about that particular incident, here you are away from your home country, someone has moved with you, and all of a sudden, like, there you are, and there's something about moving there, it's like finding yourself or something like, it's like a moment, right, where if I'm going to do this, I'm really going to do this, like, I'm ready. So there's this amazing willingness that you had, and also a whole bunch of courage that you had, and I think those are two important ingredients for people who are going to come and get out of your own way. It's like understanding their willingness and courage are huge components of getting what they can out of the program. And for me personally, oh my God, Adam, like when I was married, this is like, I think 10 years ago or 9 years ago is when I left my husband. I'm going to say this, that I was so in the paradigm of the picture of what I had was so pretty. The house, the cars, the man that loved me, we seemed happy to everybody else. I even convinced myself internally that I there were no variables that I could see that would be reasons why I wouldn't be happy. Like, all the boxes were checked, we were financially okay, we went on vacations, all of that stuff happened. So when you ask me, like, okay, Jennifer, like, have you ever had that happen? It's funny, Adam, because I'm just realizing how much courage, you maybe your circumstances, catalyzed you to have courage or something, but for me, I needed, I wasn't going to do it. I mean, I was such a perfectionist that I had the perfect life, supposedly, that I wouldn't have left. Like, seriously, I would not have left unless someone came along that gave me the feeling that I knew from a very small child was possible in a love relationship. And I think, you know, I'm not sure, but I'd love to hear from you guys to see if you've ever had that feeling of, like, you know what's possible, it's just you don't know how to get there. And the funny thing is when I had dream after dream after dream that something else was possible in love, and I thought it was about my husband. I thought it was about he and I couldn't imagine that I was supposed to be with someone else. And it wasn't until I met this person and it just activated that possibility. I never thought the words would come out of my mouth to my husband before anything happened with this other person. I never thought the words would come out of my mouth like, Gary, I have to tell you about someone before anything happens, but I think we have to get divorced. And we lost it. We were none of us, I didn't see it coming. I wasn't even thinking that way. So it actually took a tremendous catalyst for me to even make it possible to think that I could, to feel, never mind think, but to feel that something else was possible. So when that happened, it almost forced me to have the courage and have the willingness, because I knew I wouldn't settle for anything less the rest of my life. I knew I couldn't, because that thing that I had always imagined was possible and now became very real. And I thought, if this is possible for, eventually it turned into, this is possible for anyone, because I was so focused on the freaking out about divorcing and all that kind of stuff. It was all about me back then. But then I realized, oh no, this is how human beings are wired. It's just getting to the being able to have that kind of love. So yeah, I had my own version of it, but I'm just going to say, like, I was so blinded to it. It took, someone had to shake my tree pretty hard to get me to let go of my, grip on how life was supposed to look, right? So weird.
Do you think, what do you think is the first requirement? Do you think it's a willingness or the courage? Because I think thinking back to myself, I don't know if it was, like, I don't think I was feeling very courageous in the moment, because I knew that what I was going to suggest was going to hurt this other person. Yeah. And I think that's probably one of the first times I ever experienced what it would be like to be in full neutrality.
Don't you?
Because I couldn't be quite swayed by the fact that, oh my gosh, I'm going to hurt this person. Because it's either that or I stay in the relationship because I don't want her to be in any pain. But clearly she was already in pain in the relationship, as was I. Right. So is it like courage that comes first, or is it the willingness and then courage comes after a while?
Do you know what? Actually, we talked about this last night, and I just changed my mind. As we're even talking about it, to me, I think, no, I know. I'm not even going to say I think. I don't even believe this. This goes beyond, like, thinking or believing it. I know in my heart, the human beings, I know that you and I were wired for this, for the kind of fluidity, for the kind of communication, for the kind of love. But I know that it's not just you and I, Adam. You and I have both worked with a lot of people. I think everyone is wired to it. I think we're actually wired, ultimately, to, we're called, like, it just depends on where we are, how willing we are to hear the call. Do you know what I mean? And then when we're willing to hear the call, which is probably true of everyone that's listening right now, or you wouldn't be on the line, because this is what we talk about, it's like, if you felt the call, like I did or like Adam did, I think then when you feel what's possible, even if you can't imagine it, because for me, I couldn't have imagined it, I think the calling is what gives you, I don't know, love to hear your feedback, it was what gives you the willingness and the courage, right? Even if you don't know what it is. Like, I had no idea what it was leading to. Did you, Adam?
Yeah, I was just sorry, I just went into this kind of revelry where I thought that where I considered that had I known 4 years ago what this journey was going to be like and how many stones I would have to turn over, you know, if I'd have known then, would I actually have had the courage? I'd like to think yes, but there's probably a small part of me that would say hell no. You know, I'm fine in my smallness. I'm like totally cool being alone. As Neil just commented, you know, once you have that, once you have divine and sacred type of love, you know, either you want that or you're comfortable being alone. And I think I was like kind of, and then you showed up, and it was like, okay. I mean, I thought it'd be something completely different.
Yeah. And when you showed up, I thought, oh my God, magnificent. You know, this is just going to be amazing and easy and fluid, and there's so much passion. But then we realized that, I think what we realized is that it's all magnetic, you guys. You know, it's,
Yep.
We are wired. Okay, so how you know, and just for people who are new to this conversation with us, you know, Adam's like this amazing warrior, and I am just really a champion he just is a champion for people. And I'm a holographic seer. I see the energy of things, and I see what's been incongruent for people. And the funny thing is that when we got together, I could see all the love that was possible, but I didn't have an awareness at that point, thank God, of all the stuff that we would move through, Adam, because normally I would see all that stuff. And if I had seen it, I would have been so freaked out because I would have had no way, but it was no way to figure out how to do it because my mind would have wanted to figure it out. So one of the things that Adam and I learned very quickly is the only way you can have a relationship is fully in the present, and you guys have all heard that before, or maybe for the first time, but here's the thing. It's in the now that we figured out our way, and in those miraculous moments, there are all sorts of ways we learn to access the deeper dive, right, and the magical power that human beings have to change magnetics, and it's all good, but the thing is, not being in the now for me looks like trying to future project all the things that we have to do in order for me to be safe. It's one of the reasons why I developed a sensitivity, and probably why a lot of people well, not probably, after years of classes, I can tell you it's a huge reason why people and I have developed sensitivity. We develop sensitivity to protect ourselves from something scary, like you and I breaking up, or like, you know, you getting too scared, or
me dropping dead,
you dropping dead, or whatever. And so, you know, that is not being in the now, you guys. Just so you know, that is not being in the now. Now is where all the magic is. That's where the space between the atoms has the access to the answers that you could never have imagined. And I was constantly living in, how do I prevent all the shitty stuff that's happened in my past relationships from happening again, right? So we'll talk,
right.
Yeah. And
right.
Adam, let's give people, before we go too much further, let's give people, you guys, here's a little bit of a.
Get carried away, sorry.
You know what? One of the things is even in this workshop, we're fully in the present. So we're going to go down the rabbit holes that are presenting, right? So we have what we wrote on the page, and if there is, in the space between the atoms, there's something that presents from consciousness that's better to talk about, that's going to move even more energy, or a way that we can talk about it that's going to move even more energy, then we're going to do that. For those of you that are control freaks, that's going to drive you crazy. because you want us to follow an agenda. So I'm going to tell you there actually is an agenda. And maybe for some of you, that control freakness is one of those things that sabotage your relationship. You needed to future project what's going to happen so you can keep control of it now so that nothing goes wrong, right? I have no idea what that's like personally, but I hear other people have that. Adam's laughing because I'm full of it. Okay, so
Right.
The agenda for today is, first of all, that we were going to share with you that story. The second thing is we're going to talk to you about the ways to listen today, which we already have. The third thing is we're going to go through some ways that people get sabotaged, some ways that aren't going to be included in today, that we want to know that we want you to know that we will be addressing in the program itself. But we want to talk about some of the results of those sabotaging mechanisms so you understand it. Next, we're actually going to dive in together, and you're going to go through some experiences that are going to assist you through the first and just meatiest level of just imagine, you guys. So the three aspects of self-sabotage we're going to talk about beyond the first few that we'll share with you are, for us, very powerful ones. So imagine, if you will, and part of this workshop is going to be in the imagining. So don't just think that we're saying imagine like lightly. Take yourself to a place where you actually, this is called activating a future possibility, right? So we're going to activate it in your subatomic space and in your mind and in your cells. So you want to know that in our work, that is definitely a thing, because if you can't see what you're headed towards, it's very hard to rewire and change the default. So know that this is part of the process. So the first place we're going to go is imagine, okay, that you don't react to anything. In other words, you don't get triggered in your work, with your friends and your family. Nobody triggers you. You're completely free to let people be as they are. They be exactly the way they've ever been. But it actually doesn't take you out. It doesn't cause you to have an emotional reaction that stops you from enjoying your life. You can remain fully in the present. Imagine that. Imagine what that would be like. Just see what it's like to be in your family without being triggered by a single person, like total, complete freedom. Okay? So breathe. Just breathe. And smile. We're going to go to the next one. Imagine, okay, we're going to give some examples too. Imagine that no matter what someone said, so things like, I can't believe you did this like that. This doesn't look right. Oh my God, you look like you're getting fat. Wow, you're really not aging well. This project didn't turn out very well that you did. Imagine that anything that anyone could say, or even when your mother tries to help your kids because she thinks she does it better than you, or whatever it is. Imagine nothing. There is nothing that you take personally. Imagine it doesn't matter what the people around. In fact, you don't take things personally so powerfully that you actually stay in neutrality, such that you can say something that can shift the energy from a total place of neutral, not reaction, and total love. Imagine that. Imagine that there is nothing you take personally. You know that it has nothing to do with you. And not only that, not only are you neutral, but you can actually change the energy from that space of neutrality of any situation. Imagine that. Just future project that like you're living that way. Just imagine what it would be like for you to be again, with certain family members or in love or at work. Okay? And the last one we're going to talk about is being stuck in old patterns of behavior. So now smile and take a deep breath. That's how we shift gears. Just smile. Kind of like a satisfied, okay, I did it, right? So the next one is, the third one we're going to look at is being stuck in old patterns of behavior. So you know how old patterns come up? You're doing something that's like, I can't believe, it's like me with Adam, worrying about this, or, telling him, like, are you sure you did this? Are you da-da-da-da-da? That's me future projecting that something's going to go wrong. Now, it's not like, it might not be beneficial to say that. It's the energy behind it, where he can feel that I'm trying to micromanage it. Not him, but it, right? And where are your old patterns? What patterns come up in relationships all the time? Like, do you just, some of the things that you guys already said, like, I just be quiet. I don't ask for what I need. I just, even though I know I should, doesn't matter. I don't do it. I just, I end up attracting people, and then I eventually just push them away because I don't want them to get too close. I be independent. I know it doesn't work. I know no one can contribute to me. Or maybe some of you didn't know that. But if you're independent, no one can contribute to you. You're very hard to love. You could do everything. These are old patterns of behavior that keep you from getting what you want. You can't have the safety mechanisms and have what you want too. It's one or the other. Right? So those are the three things we're going to talk about in about 10 minutes. We've got some juicy stuff to get to prepare to get there. So and then we're going to do a little summary of some of the tools and some of the default changing mechanisms that we use. Then we're going to summarize what Get Out of Your Way actually is and what we're going to take you through and Get Out in the 5-week program so that you really understand what's headed your way. And then we're going to also talk about some really cool things that we're going to make available. And the last thing is we're going to do a final activation. So what we're going to do is what we call a subatomic activation of what's lying inside of you with respect to relationships in your life. And it's a very powerful, sort of life-changing thing, okay, that we're going to experience together. So that's the final thing that we're going to do. So,
sounds like fun.
Yeah, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It does. So, Lam, it seems to me that, like, I was just thinking about, like, how our clients, we were talking last night about how it's a certain group of people that come to play with us, and I think it's an example of the magnetics of relationships in the first place. We emanate these little photon packages of information, these light packages. That's how people have instincts and feel us from a mile away. And there's a certain kind of person that we tend to attract, that there are characteristics in them that kind of make this the perfect work. And
sure.
Yeah, so we talked about some of those characteristics last night just for fun. And yeah, what were some of them, or at least some of them that you resonated with?
Well, the one that comes to mind first is, they just want to get on with it. A lot of the folks that come work with us, they felt the calling, they've done the work, they've been to other seminars, read other books, and and it's all either comes across as a strategy, or they just want to get on with the magnificence that their life can be. They're not interested in going back and excavating old crap. And even though in my own particular story, I had to go back and reconnect with a moment in my life in which I gave my power away in order for me to actually live my life now. But that's not necessarily always the case, and it can be transcended rather quickly. So they're a bunch of freedom seekers. They don't like to be controlled. They don't like to be told what to do. Which is great when it comes time for homework, right?
That's why I have to secretly disguise it as something else. We can't call it homework because they don't like to be to be bossed around. They tend to, again, it's that independence, right? And but
right.
I know.
You know,
sorry, go ahead, sweetie.
Our work deals with the innate ability that human beings have expressed, and to some degree, a lot of the folks that come to us already recognize or feel or are sensitized incongruence in their community, incongruence in their family, incongruence in whatever it is, and they're looking for a way to be able to be their piece of the puzzle on heaven on earth.
Yeah, it's like they already know that, like, and we love you guys. For those of you on Google Hangouts, type in the ones that you resonate with, like the ways that you be that we're talking about right now, because these are all ways that we be too. There's like a we'd love to hear, you know, from you as well, which characteristics you resonate with, because you know there's this profound sense that we want to be free, and I thought, like, you and I, you know, we both love to be free, but it's more like free of the dogma of society, to understand how to live like a being that was born out of the imagination of creation, rather than some being that has to fit in with the shoulds, musts, and have-tos. Like, how do you go direct with consciousness so that it's not just being free, it's also, how do I be free to make my greatest contribution back, so that the harmony that I feel, that is the, you know, the thing that I'm so sensitive to the incongruencies about, that, like, I'm free to actually go beyond the confines of the tools we have, you know, from a human, the shoulds, musts, and have-tos and strategies of being human. There has to be we all know that there has to be a way to wake up faster and to find harmony on this planet faster. And there's almost like this calling to be free, not just for the sake of being free, to be rebellious or whatever, but also to somehow be the change, like somehow become a member of the heaven on earth construction crew. Like, there's more to this life. You know what I mean?
Yep, I totally get what you mean, and I think one of the underlying things, I wasn't really connected to it until later, because even though you and I had met several years previous, came to the Wide Awakening as a client. You know, I signed a mastery course, and that's how our relationship. But the thing that I think was missing for me was the fluidity. Like, yes, there was a desire to be and contribute to live a congruent life, but for me, it seemed like my life had become so much work, and I knew that there was a way in which it could be more fluid, trying to be something or trying to achieve something or trying to get. It could actually all come to me. I didn't know what those mechanics were. I didn't know a little bit about quantum theory and stuff like that, but it was kind of like it was just kind of an innate knowing. What frustrated with me is knowing it and not having any tools in which to make that happen was like the double whammy. Like, knowing that it's possible and not knowing how to do it.
Yeah, the contrast. And
right.
Yeah, and yeah, we've just been on this amazing, so we're going to dive in together now, you guys, because the amazing journey that Adam and I have been on has shown us that it's true. that there's a whole other way beyond the strategies of personal growth, and there is a way that's way faster to activate the deeper truth so that all of the density inside of us, all of the shoulds, musts, and have-tos, all of the things that have been holding us back can actually dissolve away hundreds at a time. So as opposed to just using tools to manage the misery, you know, to like every time a new habit or a new thing oh, I know how to manage that. I'm just going to use this tool I have. Not that there's anything wrong with that, because it's great to use that to get you back in your flow in the meantime. But just, it's so important for everyone to know in this class. Really, it is. It's actually crucial to this workshop that you understand that it doesn't have to be that way. Those things that you've been to course after course after course where you've tried to, you thought that you did it, you thought that you broke the pattern, you thought that you got rid of it, and it just keeps coming back. There's a reason for that. And there's a fundamental understanding of life missing, that if your left brain and right brain could agree, that if your whole body could access the remembrance of that knowing, of the truth of who we are, the true template of being human and as creator consciousness living through human bodies, that when we remember that subatomically and intercellularly and cellularly, anything that isn't that has to therefore dissolve or transmute in the process without you having to analyze the living daylights out of it, without you having to do anything. And although what we're about to do involves some looking at the past, some sharing stories, it's in the reconciliation and in what Adam and I are going to share that you're going to find the differences, and we're going to start to ask you questions that bring you to that deeper knowing. So on those three subjects, we will definitely do that. But in the meantime, there are so many ways that people get in their way, and please give a shout out if you recognize some of the ways, and please give a shout out to any ahas you have as we're talking about these. So Adam, what are some of the ways, as we were moving through this program and putting it together, what are some of the ways that that we were seeing that are the biggest ways that people sabotage themselves?
Fascinating ones is how, and it kind of happens, how should I say it? Anyway, stuff with people who validate your story.
Yeah.
And I find that to be fascinating. I work in an industry, in the culinary industry, and people just love to gripe, and their congregation help validate that gripe, whatever it is. And even are hyper, you know, they're trying to win the Enlightenment Olympics. You know, they're surrounding themselves with folks who kind of story as well, and it takes the deeper part of kind of stand in the way of that story and assist to jettison that for a deeper truth, for lack of a better word.
Right. It's kind of like the story kind of feels safe. Right?
And I was just going to say that, you know, one of the other ways was doing what's safe instead of what you're called to do. You know, the devil you know versus the devil that you don't know.
Yeah. And
of course, as a result of that, it just keeps you small, stifles your piece of the puzzle, and it also helps you not only keeps you small, but it also keeps you stuck, because you will never get on with what it is that you're here to do, because you're constantly in contemplation and constantly in rationalization. You know, this thing between safety and fear is a huge underlying, like we talk about Maslow's pyramid. You know, for me, it all came down to, you know, it could, everything that I was scared of could be drilled right down to not wanting to be alone, living in a cardboard box underneath an overpass. No matter what that fear, what it started out as, that's what I was ultimately afraid of, that I was going to be old and alone and living in a cardboard box underneath an overpass.
And then it creates
from that light
and desperation, right? Like we become desperate. Like the fear of this overwhelms us. So in order to keep safe, we become desperate, and we have these automatic patterns that we behave from this sense of, oh my God, I never want that to happen. And so it overrides our natural propensity to flow with life because we're reacting to a future projection of a fear that has nothing to do with right now, right?
Yeah, right. Another couple of ways, you know, or not liked, you know, being someone who's going to be always placid and never confrontational and agreeable most of the time, or you know, basically an emotional doormat. Or on the flip side of that is being a rebel, or, you know, for a while I had a persona called the quantum anarchist, who was always about
I remember it well.
Shouting, you know, speaking truth to power, but like shouting it to, again, kind of like doing it from respecting someone else's opinion, but just offering something.
But why would you do that, right, sweetie? Why would we do that? Why would you like be? For me, it was because we were at opposite ends of the spectrum for the same reason. For me, it was about making life like I didn't want anyone to not like me, right? So, you know, I had this automatic feeling of, oh my God, I'm going to temper it so that I can be liked, and that, you know, that I can be heard, and that, you know, like I don't want to do anything where I stand the potential of not being liked, which, of course, doing this for a living, oh my God, it's like endless how much that can happen, not being liked. And it's been an incredible journey even that way, right? And so, you know, that governed my life, and I would do things that were contra my instinct, contra what I knew would be in the highest and the greatest service and the most love, just to make sure I was liked first, because I was so scared of being judged, like so scared. And that's because, you know, I grew up with the dad that I grew up with. He was, you know, everything had to be just so. And so, you know, I was afraid that every time my father criticized it is because he didn't love me, and it felt horrible. So I would react to everything like, okay, I have to get everything perfect, or I have to be nice enough to be liked. So, but why be rebellious? Like, how is that sabotaging? What were you trying to prove?
Because, Jennifer, it's the same thing. It's the fear of being judged. That fear of being judged had me reacting and completing others first, right? And also, as you know, keeping an escape hatch in a relationship, or they left me because perceptively, you know, how could they this much? You know, if I'm going to be all of me, then it's going to be too much. Rooftops, then it's going to be too much for anybody, which wasn't. So different spectrums of behavior, but they all are derived. And you know, it's sort of one another. One of the things, another one that we talked about was holding identity, holding comfortable. And maybe some folks aren't necessarily mean when we talk about identities, but you know, mediator, coach, don't rock the boats, some of the other ones that folks can. So I mean, these are all So
can I
to decide, but go ahead.
Totally. Like being rebellious, like you said before, right? It's like it's an identity that we don. It's like me trying to be liked, or being quiet so that I don't get close to anyone so I can it's like avoiding not being liked, you know, right? Like, I'll just be shy and I'll just totally avoid being, you know, I'll just stay away from people. I know there's a lot of people out there that are aloof. But what I wanted to read, I took a note from your, from you, sweetie, here. Dagny's just saying that rebellion is a form of control. All of it really is a form of control, Dagny. Like, all of it. It's all trying to not be seen, right? So some people are saying that they had the same father as me. Yeah, I totally get. Some people also temper the truth, right? They don't want to tell the truth because they don't want to be not liked. So so I just love what everyone is saying here, because yeah, I mean, God, imagine being free of all that, you guys, that it doesn't run you anymore. So
Jennifer, there was one probably very important to this conversation is nobody in the room I probably have was blaming my lack of fluidity in life on someone else or some other circumstance. I've done that, but you know, just maybe
no
it's just
one else has ever done that. It's like, you know, you blame you blame your husband for not being, you know, I would, you know, I would enough. Yeah, and well, I blame my husband for not having a, you know, and then what I did is I went, oh well, I guess I'll pour more of my energy into work. You know, since I'm not fulfilled here, I'm going to be fulfilled there, right? So what did you blame, sweetie?
What did?
Yeah.
Who did I blame, or what did I blame? You want me to go there right now?
Yeah.
Okay. So, of those three things, three ways that people get in their way, being personally and stuck in old patterns of behavior, boil down to one thing, and so. I had been to courses, I had read the books, I had done just about everything because I knew that there was something in my way, but never really got. I mean, I had gotten, you know, do the work, yeah, okay, and then I find myself back in the same old reactive and afraid people weren't going to value, you know, especially at work, or that I didn't see that value, so I'd be reactionary.
What's a specific story? What's a specific story, Adam? Like what example can you give of that that's really super specific, where you felt really like you just got triggered? Because this is one of the, you know, actually, you know, I'm going to back up a couple of steps.
Okay.
Because I'm just going to back up a couple of steps. Because as you guys are looking at all of this, and as you guys are writing down and commenting to yourself, as you're seeing yourself and the ways you protect yourself from being vulnerable and being seen, you know, the result of blaming others for your lack of fluidity is that you never see the solutions, because it's always someone else's fault, and it's always the circumstance's fault. And so as you see yourself in this, really, is it, you know, I mean, are you sick enough of it yet, I guess is the question that we wanted to ask. Like, how tiring is it? How much energy are you expending on it? And one of the, you know, for Adam and I, as we were formulating the workshop today, the class, you know, I think we said that we both had in common that it's just time. It's time. Like, I'm done. That's it. Like, I know that it's possible not to have those things run my life, but it's just time. So show me. And everything that we're going to talk about from here forward is as a result of that 4 years ago and before that. We were both being shown even before that, because we're so wired, you know, this really is our piece of the puzzle of heaven on earth. we're so wired to assist, as you are. We know that because you're here, and truly, those heaven on earth construction crew members, the people that really know that there's more to life, we know that that's you, because that's usually who's attracted to come and play with us. So there was getting the tools, and then there was actually changing the default. And we were sick of using tools. I mean, both of us have taken so many courses in the past. So we really, we're very passionate, laser beam focused people, and that the response from the universe is kind of like, how do we do this so we don't have to keep managing ourselves? And I wanted to share that first, sweetie, because, and I'm sorry for interrupting, but I wanted to share it first. And yeah, please don't hate me, because I don't want you to not like me, okay, that I interrupted you. But that perspective, everyone, is how the reason what Adam's about to share is so important, is really why I interrupted him. It's so important to hear this story from the point of view of understanding, first of all, finding yourself in it, because that's part of the process here. And then seeing how you react. If you weren't exactly like Adam, just write down a situation or several situations, or maybe a lifetime of situations, but write it down. And because when we do the second part of this, it's going to be of great value. Really look for yourself in this. So sorry, sweetie. I just felt it was really important. I want people to actually hear what you're saying for their own selves too, so that they're fully present to it, and just kind of like, I just realized and backed up a couple of sets. So please forgive me.
Sure, yes.
Sure, yes. So in the world of being triggered, Adam, in that world, in the world of like feeling constantly undervalued, what's a really great example of something that happened that totally triggered you, that made you feel less than and undervalued, that sent you into that kind of rage or that reactivity?
Yeah, I mean, can sum it all up. I took everything very, very, very personally. Very personally. So I was bipping along, 15 years old, in high school, have just about everything, playing with everything, and I hung out with the stoners. I was a wrestler. I acted in plays in school. I was junior class president. And when I was 16, my sister accused me of raping her. I had come home the night before after wrestling practice, and on both my sisters sleeping in their bedroom, and went upstairs, and my brother was awake, and he and I talked for several hours in the darkness, as we sometimes would. And the next morning, my world blew up. My sister wouldn't talk to me, and then on the way to school, my mother, and so there was this big confrontation where I was blamed for it, and I was sure that I had nothing to do with it, but I couldn't explain what happened. And so several weeks later, maybe a month later, I realized that I couldn't stay in the house, so I went upstairs and started packing a bag, and my brother, who was with me, tears streaming down his face, told me, "Don't go, don't go, don't go." And I thought, well, I should probably stay just for him. I should stay for him. And I put my bag down, and that brought away to the entire situation.
Well, and also, sweetie, you're like this, you're this happy-go-lucky, make it happen, sort of Mach 10 with your hair on fire, 15-year-old. Mm-hmm. Like, Adam was such a shiny light. I didn't know him back there, but enough people have told me, and he said, and I'm like, I so get. He was like on teams and part of the, school council, and just like, and all of a sudden, he wakes up one morning. I remember you telling me this story, and anyways, I just wanted to share that because the contrast is like, it's like you've got it all going on, and then wham, right?
Yeah, and a month or so later, I think my folks had decided that must have been a very vivid dream, but no one actually came and told me. And for years, I carried the guilt of that act. And there were times when my sister would say something incredibly courageous to me and say, Adam, it's okay, you didn't even really hurt me. And I said, Amy, that's such a beautiful gift, but I can't. To the point where you start doubting yourself, even though your truth is so clear. It was like, well, maybe I did it. Maybe I didn't remember it. Maybe I blacked out. I think that's what happened. So my parents had this idea of the kind of person I was. So I decided to make them write about it. And the rock and roller and all this other crap that was going on.
Yeah,
so,
like the anarchist.
Yeah, the rebel. When in fact that wasn't who I was. But it became a protective mechanism to keep people away from me because I didn't. It was just a shitty thing to have happen. Not to mention the fact that it happened to my sister, whom I love very much. 18 years I carried that guilt with me until, and then we found out who did do it. Let me take the blame for 15 years when they could have straightened it all out. So, yeah, no wonder I was reactionary. No wonder I was so with anybody who didn't value my opinion or because of that particular moment. And key for me was actually going back to that moment and allowing all of it in, at glossing it over and rationalizing it and creating what it was and how it didn't affect me, when in fact it was. So to go back to that moment and that night and the next morning and kind of break that chain by that moment for me was incredibly liberating, and it was the first step for me going forward. And no one had ever asked me that question, and it kind of sprung it all loose, which was in a setting, you, Jennifer, looked at me and said, so who in your life didn't value you? And for me, that was kind of an amazing journey that has, opened up source, but it's also sprung me loose in a version of my life that I would never have thought was possible, ever. And now I find myself to be much more grounded, much more neutral, less reactionary, and also be able to hold the space for others without taking it on for me or making it mean anything, or everything that, anything that anybody did something about me.
Right, because
and I look back at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you
So,
doubt yourself, but you shouldn't. You weren't believed, but you should be. So then you become rebellious. It's like, keep recreating situations where you're not believed, or keep recreating situations where people like it's in your magnetics. It literally is in your. When we make decisions like that, everyone. And thank you, Adam. I love you so much. Thank you for sharing that. Seriously, that's like such a vulnerable story. And
I go, but
yeah.
Before you go there, I just wanted to make roll trajectory from the realization that there are many in silence, and so men's work has now.
Yeah.
So that, you know, by being vulnerable, I hope to foster vulnerability. And, you know, again, I'm not a big, neither one of us are a big in excavating a bunch of stuff. But if is that I had encased it almost in ice, like a way for me to actually access that.
Yep.
Like to even acknowledge me was where my failure was. And I don't mean until I could actually see all the ramifications of that had infected my ways of being. So yes, there's power in the recognition of that moment. There's a power of the fact that up until that point, on fire, and that I could be again. That I could actually remake one of who I was before that moment. Not to say that there's what I experienced, because there were also some great things that came out of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my ability to see things through.
Yep.
So saying, you know, there's always some good and bad to it, right?
But we don't want to justify what happens, because
no.
We don't want to justify what happens by there's always, that's a trap that people fall into. They start to justify what terrible things that happen. I remember even one of our participants once, had horrible abuse in her past, and she kept saying, but they're nice people like them, and I'm like, that's okay, that's all right, but this is about you. And what happened to you was in the world of... So now we get into everyone, because, you know, Adam just addressed the second point, which is taking things personally. Of course, he would take everything personally from then on. Everything would be about how he's not good enough, how he's not a good person, all that kind of stuff. Of course, he would decide that he would spend the rest of his life, up until the time where it got interrupted, trying to prove that you shouldn't doubt him, or that you shouldn't. But in the same point, he was actually proving that they were right. You know, it's like, I'm going to show you. So, you know, the point is that there's two things we can talk about with respect to a story like that, or helping someone with a story that's so like, oh my God. One thing is we can offer, you know, when you're in that reactive mode, it's very hard to think of a tool. You know, the person who's reacting is being incredible. You guys all know, when you're in that kind of reaction where you're taking something personally and you're not really reacting to the person in front of you, and I want you to look right now, because this is one of the ways that we move you through things. You know, if you're not here, there's a lot of people that aren't willing to be courageous enough to take a look at this. But I'm going to ask you guys to look at a time when you've taken personally something your sweetie said, or something an ex-lover said, or something your friend said, where you took it so personally. Now, look and see what you took personally. What did they say? What did you think it meant about you? What did it mean about you? For Adam, you know, Adam, you just said it meant that, like, I'm not trustworthy, I'm not a good person, you know, all the things that you know, you even made it mean something about the world, that the world is not a safe place, because even the people that love me don't believe me. I'm not even believable. I might as well lie all the time, because nobody believes me when it's true anyways. Right?
So Yeah.
So that, yes.
Jennifer, yesterday,
Yeah.
yesterday we were talking about tools around on this kind of
Yeah.
reaction, and we talked about that one can have when someone's being reactive
Yes,
with them.
absolutely.
But I also realized a tool for when someone's being reactive.
Yes, but you have to be willing to change, right? What I'm saying is there's some people that aren't on this call right now that don't have the courage or the willingness yet. But the cool thing is the tool you're about to share, if as you guys start to see and you're looking personally at a situation earlier in your life, like it probably in your childhood, that made you feel someone important to you was in a situation where you were actually feeling the exact same way, and you keep reproducing that feeling over and over again. So to look at that is really important. To look at where that feeling first came from is really super important. So, and yes, yeah, sure, absolutely, Adam. So there are tools that we can use both with someone like that, or I know there's tools that you use for yourself, right? When you're in taking something personally or being reactive.
And this has come up in conversations with other team members, especially Jeannie, where I get some, like, for me, smoking cigarette for when those conversations get to. But the thing that I keep coming back to is to be in the conversation, like my commitment to continuing the conversation. Like in that moment, I know that, but I'm gonna still hang in there and just breathe for a moment and allow the next portion of the conversation to occur without future projecting exactly what that conversation is going to be or how it's going to end
Right.
up.
So it's taking the time to breathe, taking the moment, because you know that you're a divine child of God and everything happens for you. It's giving yourself permission to take the moment to breathe.
Yeah. And I just needed to make a clarification. The reason that I brought this story up, because I thought that Jennifer and I both thought that this would be we want to assist in the most powerful way possible the most amount of people. And even though it's a distasteful, to put it politely, story, the Bonnie's asking a question, so do we need to go back and revisit all the places in our done wrong and clean up the messes?
No.
Landmark forum.
No,
so
absolutely not.
Clarify that.
Well, that's exactly where I was going. So there's the tools, right? So there's tools, or there's old school ways of doing it whereby we connect back and we're like, oh my God. What I want to make sure that everyone realizes here, right now, at this particular time, Bonnie, is that there is no need to go back and analyze that. Just the realization. So everybody listen, because this is where we do the permanent cellular shift part, right? So we gave you a tool. Okay, I'm going to go out and breathe. I'm going to come back and work through the conversation. But you can get that if you're really super triggered, you're not even going to know. It might take you 2 days to breathe before you come back to the situation. So a tool is good, but it doesn't change your default. Analyzing is okay, i.e., let's look for where this happened earlier in my life and fix it back then. But you would have to do that one at a time, right? So Bonnie's question is very good, because how can we actually shift it? And I want everyone to come on a journey with me. And it's the same journey that Adam and I have been on. And this is how you change the subatomic space. Now, it's going to take, a couple of days to integrate, but I just want to show you how this works. And I'm going to show you by actually moving through it and having you moving through the process. And the process looks like this. So first we have to reach a certain level of understanding that there isn't anything that you get triggered by or react to that is you. So by activating the deeper truth of you, so everybody close your eyes for a moment and just get into, this is where we get to move mountains. I'm going to ask you all questions, same questions that Adam was asked at the time. Are you or are you not a function of creation dreaming into being? Is there some kind of creative force that makes stuff? And just answer the question. That creative force that makes stuff, is it all seeing and all knowing? Is it everywhere? Is it in you, of you? I mean, the creative particles of physics, are they part of everything? And do they have an awareness of each other beyond anything that a human being can understand? Whether you call it God or the universe or creation. And if that's true, you're made of that. In fact, if you can imagine a conspiracy of the spirit that you are, the collection of personality, skill sets, and beingnesses that you ever were, called your spirit, has a certain trajectory and a certain yearning to expand more heavenly flow by creating upon creation. We just were wired for it. And imagine that being had a conversation with all of creation. And the question really is, who really birthed you? Was it your parents who blamed you or hurt you? Or was it actually the entire universe? You see. Who actually originally dreamed you into being? Was it them? Or was it consciousness itself, looking at a huge planet where there was massive change going on, where people were starting to wake up when you were born, knowing full well that the trajectory that you were going to go on, the being that you are, the trajectory that you were even in spirit, after many, many experiences and other bodies and other lifetimes, here you were waking up to the fact that, and the universe acknowledging the fact that your piece of the puzzle of heaven on earth actually matters. You, as a piece of the puzzle of heaven on earth, actually matter. You actually are part of that shift. The birthing of you came from that. It didn't come from the idea of two people thinking that they want a baby, or even if they didn't even think that. You came through because you said yes. You knew what it was going to be here. You knew the experience, and you even knew some of the things that would happen that weren't so hot. But you even knew, you see what Adam said? He said, you know, now I'm so inspired to help the masculine be vulnerable and wake up to who they are. Yeah, of course he is. Because even you, before you got here, knew exactly the trajectory you would be on before you got here, and that would make a huge change for humanity. And it doesn't have to be a speaker or a trainer or whatever, but the things that you move through open doorways, even if Adam never ever spoke in front of people. Him moving through this and having the courage to actually remember that he's God's good idea. His life actually does matter, or he wouldn't be here. Consciousness, creation thinks he matters, or he wouldn't be here. His life right now is important, just like yours. But him catching up to consciousness's idea that he's a magnificent being, and the full circles that he had to go through, what he had to move in order to get there, opens doorways in physics for millions of people, not just men, but people who felt the exact same way. And the same is true for me and for you. So in embodying that truth, which is really what Get Out of Your Own Way is about, it's about embodying at the subatomic space, and you decide, is what I just said true or not? Because as soon as you make that decision, it means that everything else in your life has to change. Because if you are the universe's good idea before you got here, and there literally is going to be doorways and doorways and doorways opening through you finding your way back to fluidity for millions of people. Not like that's the reason why you should do it, but that is the beautiful privilege and honor it is to wake up to who you are. So the tools are wonderful, but I hope now that you can see how powerful it would be if you could embody. And we already moved energy on it because we just asked you some questions and your left brain and your right brain are talking. That's either true or it's not. But if it is true that you are the idea of all of creation, if that is true, then there's a whole bunch of incongruencies and ways that you're understanding things that happen to you that need to be updated to a deeper understanding. Think of how many people you've told your story to that it's made a difference for. Think of if you full circled so many of the things that happened to you, what would happen around you to your magnetics, what you would stop attracting, and what you would start attracting, because your entire magnetics would no longer be about proving that you're not what your father said when you were 3. So Bonnie, the point is this. What we want you to see is that everything, every way you react, every way you take it personally, every stuck behavior is not you. The point of looking and seeing is to looking and seeing in your past how that feeling's come up before is not so we can analyze it. It's so that you can go back and see that pretty much every single thing that you do that is incongruent with the flow that you know is possible for you isn't you anyways. It's from an egoic invention of a protective mechanism that you invented in order to be able to, it's a protective mechanism that you invented to be able to survive. When before you got here, all you wanted to do is be the bridge and shift humanity by waking yourself up. You knew you would be on this journey. So it's not so much that we have to analyze every time. It's that if you look at any 5 things that you take personally, react to, or are old patterns, you'll know that all of them came from somewhere else. And they didn't come from the moment where you're in front of someone having the reaction or doing the old behavior. Since we know it came from somewhere else, it might not even be in this lifetime. You don't even have to know where it came from. All you need to know is that it's not you. Then, in Get Out of Your Own Way, in the program itself, we can actually start to activate the truth of who you are so powerfully, such that all those parts that are not you can dissolve. Because you're remembering, you're literally cellularly remembering the you were before you even got here, the thing that the universe saw before you got here. And that's the fast track. And it's a way less painful track as well, because you also get the skills to be able to live that way as the piece of the puzzle of heaven on earth that you are. And you also get to see why you're here in the process, just like Adam was just explaining. So, does that make sense? And Adam, anything to add?
No, I think that was a beautiful way. I mean, that was inspired. What you just did, that was groovy. Because you're right. I mean, the tools are great as a beginning, as a starting point, but the tools are never meant to be the one and only.
No.
The tools are just being a bridge to the way of being, so it becomes automatic.
Yeah.
So for like me breathing or taking a breath in a conversation, it might have been a tool, but after a while it begins to be my way of being,
right.
by you being my soft place to land when I'm you know, kind of being humorous when my ego shows up and kind of laughing at it a little bit, is, you know, it starts to be a tool in which to deal with that type of reaction. But after a while, it becomes just a way of being, and not only are you laughing, but then I'm laughing too.
Absolutely,
so,
absolutely.
And I think like we could come on the webinar and offer 10 or 12 or 15 different tools.
Yes.
That would work.
But anyone can.
But really, is that what?
Yeah, you can get that anywhere.
But is that really what this is about? No. Or is it, you know, cause a way of being so that they don't have to figure out a tool or a strategy around feeling connected? Because the biggest thing that has come out of this work for me has been a feeling of deep, deep, deep gratitude and humility, because I see myself in everyone.
Yeah, me too.
But not as a way of being or like trying to get along with people. It's just, you know, every time I look at them, not only do I see myself, but I also see them who they really are. Not even their anger, not their ego, no nothing. So, I think that's probably the biggest gift I could ever hope for anybody, because it certainly eases a whole bunch of crap.
That's part of why we're doing this, right? It's to pay that fast track forward. There's one other,
yep.
You know, we're going to do an activation at the end, and that will be soon, you guys. And certainly, I know you're going to have questions at the end. We want to make sure that we finish in the next 15 minutes, because we really want to honor your time. We know we're going a little bit over time. But we will finish in the next 15 minutes, and we'll stay on afterwards. We're so happy to answer questions, truly. I just wanted to give another example. So we talked a little bit about being triggered. We talked about tools. We talked about paradigm shifts, the difference between tools and activating the truth of who you are, so that you actually eventually don't need any tools. The tools become a temporary measure. So I just wanted to share a story with me around work. That, you know, when I was growing up, my dad was super duper, like, his father, so my grandfather, was an engineer. And of course, the bridge falls down if you don't get it right. So he already had that going for him. He was already a perfectionist to begin with. But my grandfather left a very abusive, alcoholic, terrible home. And he said to himself, I'm never going to be like my dad. And so what he did is he put in his head that what I have to do is I have to get it right then. So what I have to get being a father right. But the problem is what getting it right meant to him, my grandfather, is it meant that everyone was happy and behaved okay and da-da-da-da. So now he's an engineer with all these right ways of being. Now he's infusing right ways of being into his family, and that was a family my father was in. And my father was on every single sports team there was, and he had such natural ability. Like, I'm not even kidding you. Even though my father, you know, drank a lot in university and he was picked up by the Canadian Football League. He was a scratch golfer. He coached the Belgian national hockey team. I'm talking about, this guy was a phenomenon, and my grandfather didn't go to a single game. So, ever. And that just made my dad try even harder. So now he's a dad with me, and he wants us, you know, to behave a certain way and to get it right and to, you know, for us to be happy. But he has this right way in his head. And I felt the pressure of that, and I was a straight A student, and I kept my nose very clean, and I was very, like, in the background and constantly very shy because I didn't want to get anything wrong. And I thought that every time I did something and my father found out about it and it wasn't quite right, I thought that he didn't love me. I remember being in the basement and helping him at like 4 or 5 years old with the paneling that he was trying to miter out, and trying to put it around a fireplace or whatever, wood paneling. And I whacked the end of it off after he had made this perfect piece of panel. And he just yelled at me, and that was one of the first times where I thought, you know what, I think you have to get it right. So his life and his grandfather's life is being paid forward to me now because I made up exactly what they made up. You have to get it right or people don't love you or like you or whatever. And here's this little girl who just basically shuts up, just, and my way of handling it was either not to be seen or to be funny. So then what happened later in life is I remember sitting there and I wrote a letter to my father out of an inspiration, and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote. And the letter was really taking responsibility for the fact that I, as an adult, had deliberately chosen not to share my life with my father because I was afraid he was going to judge me or he was going to, bark at me or whatever. And it was for a program that I was in, and I had to kind of talk to him about this before the program happened the next day. And I actually the next day, this is where my need to control changed, that perfectionism changed, because I said to my dad, I got to apologize to you, and he goes, oh my God, are you taking another course? And I said, yes, I am, but I really want to tell you this. I said, I've been hiding a lot of parts of my life because I'm afraid you don't love me. And there's like dead silence. I'm afraid you don't approve of me, blah, blah, blah. There's dead silence on the phone, right? And all of a sudden my dad perks up after about like what seemed like 5 minutes when it was probably only 10 seconds. And he said, Jennifer, I could not love a human being more than I love you. Sometimes I bark, but I'm over it in 5 minutes. I'm so incredibly proud of you. So I had made up this whole story in my head, and I was acting like the rest of my life trying to get it right so that people love me or like me, and also trying to control things so they would all be right. They would all happen the way I imagined so it doesn't go wrong. Getting it wrong would be really super bad. And it's interesting because I want to tell you guys that it wasn't that story that changed my need to control. It was the doorway that opened it. But when I realized, when I started to embody and started to see who human beings are, that we're these beings that really were birthed from infinite wisdom. And through our cells, by studying biology, I saw that our cells are connected to infinite wisdom, and we're being communed with, and I'm being communed with, and I started letting myself be contributed to. I realized that even though I had a habit of being controlling, even at work, I started the business myself, and then being very, oh my God, it's doing okay, we got to keep doing the same things. But, I've manifested on our team these incredible geniuses. And the fear, entrepreneurs have it a lot, of actually letting your business go to the genius of others, such that we're dancing together rather than me staying in control or being afraid. And manifested even 2 days ago with Adam and I and Jeannie, and my general manager, were off in doing a program we do called Flight School, and we were away. So these are the three main people in the company at the time. And while we were away for like 8 days, our team built the most beautiful, we'd been working on the website, and they probably were waiting for me because I wanted to make sure that it was all right. They did the most extraordinary job. It makes me want to cry when they showed it to me because I was out of the way. Like, they literally didn't wait for me. They just said, nope, we're doing it. And Dave and Eric and whatever, and they just took what they knew to be true, and they designed this incredible thing. And they had me crying on the phone because I'm like, it was like such a full circle. I just looked up in the sky and I went, oh my God, because I've been, and it was like the biggest full circle of it's even a deepening. And what I want you guys to know about this is not, get out of your way is not a journey of there's a place to get. Your life, just like my life, is an unfoldment of a deepening to the relationship to the truth that you're constantly being given to. And the language of the universe is constantly being spoken to you. And you have to deepen, you don't have to, but It's an amazing thing to be able to dance with the entire universe and allow yourself to be given to, so that you don't have to be desperate or chase after or beat yourself up or worry about being judged anymore. It just puts a smile on your face to be able to fluidly dance with others, such that or better, you just live in the miracle zone. So I wanted to share that story because the paradigm shift for me, the realization really came for me when I said just building some people around me, and the tool is being vulnerable. Telling my team that I'm terrible. Sometimes when I get stressed out, I'll try to control. Don't listen to me. Call me on it. You're my infrastructure. That's the tool. But ultimately, I just want to change the default, right? And I'm telling you, it happened on our trip in flight school. We did the work to change the default. We did a whole piece of work that we're going to share with you and get out of your way to change the default. And the result is that these guys made this absolutely, wait till you see it. I can't even wait till you guys see it. This beautiful, beautiful website that really represents what we're up to in the world. So Sweetie Pie.
I have one small caveat to that. I don't want anybody out in the audience to think that Jennifer and I have this by any stretch. Because as Jennifer, I got a little whingy in my heart because I've been working with the team over the last year and decided to took me out of the day-to-day of the team. And then when Jennifer said the website, I went, but I didn't.
Right.
So I had a quick moment. It was a quick redirect into like, holy crap, wait.
And how long would that have bothered you before?
Right.
Right.
A week maybe. I would have held that in and
right.
Wouldn't have told anybody about it and stewed, and then maybe finally write email.
So you guys, what's important to get out of what Adam just shared is that nothing gets you. Now nothing gets you. You see, it might be a minute, it might be 30 seconds, but nothing has power over you anymore because you've realized the truth of who you are and you're magnificent. And I mean physiologically, real time, not in a woo-woo way. Your biology and your brain will actually upgrade such that you operate from where the universe saw you before you got here. You won't even be able to contain those lower frequency thoughts. Do you see what I mean? So I hope that makes sense. And let's see. Hey, Adam, you want to check if anyone has any questions about that?
It doesn't look that's a great comment. I can't, some of these comments are so awesome. I just hope the whole 500 people sign up for the course, because this would.
I know. And I'm so glad that Adam sharing his story and me sharing my story. That I know that some of you really relate to Adam, and some of you were relating to my story with my dad. And I just want you to know that it's just going to go. It's going to go so much. There's so much more to all of this. We've just really scratched the surface, as you can probably tell. But we wanted to share some of our most vulnerable stories so you could see the changes. Oh my God, I tell you so many stories came to mind as we were talking about those self-sabotaging mechanisms. But imagine just being free, you guys. So I wanted to tell you, so we're going to do the activation in literally a couple of minutes, and then we're going to take questions, okay, you guys? If you already know that you want to sign up for Get Out of Your Own Way, you know enough about Get Out of Your Own Way that you want to sign up. Rob, you can post that in the Google Hangouts for everybody. For people on Instant Teleseminar, You can find it at thewideawakening.com/get out, I believe it is. thewideawakening.com/get out. And please correct me if I'm wrong, Sonia. So you guys, here's the thing, that I want to explain the program to everyone before we do this final activation. The program is in 5 sections. It's over 5 weeks. Get out of your own way. We used to do it in a weekend, and what we found is it blew people's circuits a lot. You know, they got very personal attention, and it changed many, many lives. But we were looking to see how we could serve, A, more people, B, we could bring it to a greater number of countries, C, we could make it even more affordable. It used to be $1,100. And D, that we could focus in, we found that specific subjects, if we could dive down the rabbit hole of specific subjects with people, we could go even deeper than we did in that, than on that subject, right? So, and also, doing it in 5 weeks, it allows you to integrate each of the sections that we do, live them in your life, see all the changes, ask all the questions on the Facebook, the private Facebook page, which nobody else sees, it's just for our group, for the private Facebook page, and you start asking questions and you get the help real time, right? So just so you guys know, so it's 5 sections. The first one is called What It Takes to Be Free to Love Without Filters and Be Loved Without Filters or Reaction to Anything or Anyone. Week 2 is the completion of the past and the patterns in your relationship with yourself and others. And remember, we're sending you on the trajectory, okay? Remember, your life is everything is a journey. You're blossoming. So we're just going to do a huge chunk in a very, years and years worth of work in a very short amount of time. Week 3 is the fluidity of communication, vulnerability for those of you who are very protective. That's a very important one, because being vulnerable with others also makes you vulnerable to the entire universe giving to you. So this is all about transcending the safety mechanisms and the protective mechanisms and transcending the triggers. Week 4, we call it the full embodiment of your heart. Week 4 is the activation of the truth of who you are regarding the piece of the puzzle of heaven and earth that you are and how to stay in that flow forever and ever. Yay! So, and week 5 is the next step. So the awakening tools to transcend the stuckness and activate the flow and remind you of who you are now that you've started to embody it and you're on that trajectory, and you can be in relationships and be seen and allow yourself to be seen and vulnerable and to be in neutrality and know what to say, right? So how do you get yourself back there when occasionally you get stuck? So, the website is thewideawakening.com/get out program, okay? It's /get out program to sign up. The program is $397. Adam and I will be working with you for a few hours every Saturday for 5 weeks. You do not have to be there live. Lots of people love to be there live. Don't even worry about it. The program usually starts at 10 or 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I promise you, you will listen to these programs. Each of these weeks will be over and over and over. You'll keep listening to the recordings, and you will get the audio and the video recording a few days afterwards. But you have the audio recording pretty much right away to listen to over and over and over again. And what we're doing in this program is we're actually putting it on SoundCloud. So you actually, where there's really juicy bits, we'll write in where the activations are, or where particularly good conversations are, right on the audio recording. You could see it. Okay. So the next thing is that you can ask questions live on Facebook, and Adam and I and Susanna and Sonia and everyone from our team will be answering your questions and helping you. We'll also do this amazing exercise that Adam and I usually do live. For the first time, we're going to be doing it on webcast. It's about retroactive relationship healing. and Adam becomes all the masculine, and I become all the feminine. And it's just so powerful, I can't even explain it. If you've been in our relationship workshop, you've experienced it. There's also a beautiful community of people that are all looking for the freedom to be their piece of the puzzle of heaven on earth. They're all feeling like there's something more to life. They're all in the same resonance as you, basically. It's an amazing, and what happens is the safety that occurs because you know that you're being seen. You know that the other people in the course are just like you, so a very beautiful, vulnerable, awesome space. You also get a workbook to write in, and as I said, you get all the recordings. So the last thing I want to say, so it's $397. There is definitely a payment plan, which you'll see on the /Get Out program, thewideawakening.com/Get Out program. And we truly do wish that we just want all of you to come. I know there's many of you that are already signed up. You just wanted to come to the free class. And because there's, always value in doing that. And all of our free classes, it's like, do them on their own. They're awesome. But in reality, our hearts are called to assisting as many people as we can, because we know that heaven on earth ensues when heaven is in your life. You are in your own flow with life and circumstances and other people. And waking up to who you are is such a huge part of that. So you can ask questions anytime. You can ask questions on the Facebook page, which is facebook.com/wideawakening. Don't be shy. Really email us at officeangel@thewideawakening.com and ask the questions that you need to ask. And Faye will likely forward it to myself or to Susanna. In fact, you can even go direct to Susanna, our program manager, which is divineorder@thewideawakening.com. Yes, we do have funny email addresses like that. divineorder@thewideawakening.com if you have questions or concerns, and you can work with Faye at officeangel@thewideawakening.com if you have any, if you struggle with the financial piece, we can always work something out. But the price is $397, or there's a payment plan as well, and you'll see it on the page. So I just wanted to let you know that. The last thing I just want to say is, as a bonus for people who sign up, we're going to do a SoundCloud file where all the activations and the juicy bits are for this recording, and you will have that within the next 10 days. And also, Adam and I have done notes. So we're going to give you all of our notes as a result of... Yeah.
Totally unabridged.
Totally unabridged. We're going to show you exactly what we wrote. So just as a thank you for being a part of signing up for the program and everything. We actually did try to figure out how to... well, it doesn't matter, but we'll do that. So, all right. So you guys, if you want to stick around after, you can. We're going to answer your questions. If you don't stick around, that's great too. If you do stick around, I know it gets really frickin' juicy when we start answering questions anyways. And please, and Marie, we're looking forward to it too, and Bonnie and everyone who I know is going to be there. Our whole team is taking the course too, by the way. The whole Wide Awakening team. Okay, sweetie.
Yes,
what would you like to share personally with everyone before we do this activation?
I'd like to share personally.
What would you want people to know? I don't know. Is there anything that you want to share that's, it's like personally for you, what the shift in relationships and what this whole journey has been?
practicing mindfulness and cultivating the word anyway, neutrality. It doesn't seem kind of like antithetical to the way I live my life. If I person, the things I like a lot, but probably have the same kind of passion for. So if I was going to be neutral, and it would mean complacency. It would mean that that I was missing. In fact, what I've come to find out through experience is that neutrality has nothing to do with passion. You can still be neutral, and it's just a different expression of it. Yeah. And conversely, I become passionate about being neutral. Not to say that it's a mindful practice, and that I'm not necessarily wired that way. So I get to come back to it time and time again. But it's been the single most compelling reason for my personal success and reestablishing my adult children, with reconnecting with old friends and deepening those relationships. Certainly our relationship, but also to my effectiveness at work. Because I just think of my ways of like, oh my God, I wouldn't want to work for me.
You're so funny. Yeah.
But yeah, and I don't mean it as I don't mean it as some type of carrot on a stick for folks, because I get maybe some people who are going to listen to this or listen to the replay really resonate with them. Your voice or my voice maybe put them off or whatever. But as long as they're about the work, I don't really care where it is. I mean, don't take where you're at in your life as the gospel. You know, don't stop. But don't argue for your limitations and or anyone else's limitations. And there are many paths up the mountain, and whichever one you decide, I just want more people to play with.
Yep. There always is a way. Whatever we've been through, there's already an answer. So that you're here. So let's do the activation, and thank you, sweetie. I love you.
Do it, baby.
Okay. So you guys, so everybody breathe for a moment. And just maybe close your eyes. If you're great at staying present without closing your eyes, then good too. I'll probably close my eyes. You can cross your legs or uncross your legs. It really doesn't matter, because you're a divine child of an infinite universe. You can cross everything. You can cross your eyes. Since you're a divine child of an infinite universe, what does that mean? Let's not talk in broad terms. Get into your cells and allow yourself to feel what we're about to share. The first thing we want to say is this: you are not too much. Those feelings of I'm too much, or if I be fully me, I'll be too much for people. You are who 7.5 billion people before you have asked for. Not only are you not too much, you are someone who bridges so much pain for so many. You truly are the dream of consciousness. Meaning, if you imagine that infinite wisdom has an awareness of all, including the civilization we call human. If you imagine that that civilization for thousands of years has been living like we are limited, you know, God is out there and we're down here, just feel the ways where you've felt alone. Amplify that, and that's how it's been for thousands of years. You've even been there, if you like to believe that you have been here and been there many, many hundreds of times, being a part of giving energy to the fact that we're mere mortals. There are limited resources. There's limited love. There's limited oil. There's limited money. There's limited friendships. There's limited amount of success. It's only for a few. None of that is true. You came from creation. Creation creates upon itself. You are particles of that same creation. You literally are made, your molecules, your atoms, the subatomic spaces are made of that same consciousness. Of course you can't be limited, although you're so unlimited that you could actually invent a paradigm called I'm limited. Then you could live like it's true because consciousness will follow your actions. It will follow the paradigms you adhere to. And if you adhere to that I'm limited, you'll be allowed to live in that hologram. But it's not fun anymore. The limitations are not fun anymore, are they? The truth is, and the irony and the paradox is, that only a limited, unlimited being, only a being that could create upon creation, could even create the paradox of I'm limited, and then have it look like it's true. In reality, you are way beyond this tiny, eensy-weensy, little creation that we've made called it only looks like this. There's only so much to go around. The truth is, you're all of it that even created that paradigm. The question now becomes, we've practiced so long being limited, how do we step outside of that? That is the question. How do we step out of that limited way of being? And the answer to that question is, we have to start to act, because the universe bases its response to all human beings not based on intention, not based on prayer, but based on action consistent with those wishes. It's the action that causes the most movement and the most response in the dance with all that is. You do speak the language of all that is. It's your own expansion. It's your own action. It's your own choices. It's your own phone calls. It's your own personal connections. It's your own willingness to go outside of the limitations that tell the universe, oh, she or he is ready. They know it's time because they did something different than what they usually do. Don't default to the idea that the only way your life is going to shift is simply by wishing it or intending it. It goes far beyond that. The fast track is not wishing and intending. Although to understand that is to understand that, of course, your actions and your way of being affect consciousness. The fundamental default of who you are is just love. Don't you just want to be seen and to see the truth of others? Wouldn't it be wonderful to see beyond their foibles, to not be triggered, to not be taken out of life by things that your ego has made up that you don't like? When in reality, it's irrelevant that your ego doesn't like it, because you were put here to infuse love back into whatever situation so that it can change. That's you. That's who you are. Those are the only people that would have this conversation right now. Those that knew that they had a greater contribution to be made, that life is about more, not just for them but for others, and that something else is possible. Not in a motivational speaker kind of way, but actually in a kind of way that's more fundamental and cellular. It's a basic knowing that there must be more. So as you go about the rest of your day, and perhaps if you're going to take the program the next couple of weeks, or even the next year or 10 years to come, understand that this calling that we're activating right now to be and have the relationships and love as deeply as you can, and to find fluidity in relationships that you thought would never reconcile, and to change your magnetics so that people show up differently for you. They change around you, they morph around you because you change fundamentally. Just know that the calling to do that will be irreversible now that we've activated it even further for some of you. And that you want to follow that call. You've always wanted to. It is possible. It's not just possible, it's likely. That's the direction of the entire planet. To find harmony with each other again, and it starts with each of us. And we are so complete about that. So I think from here, you guys, so everybody breathe, first of all, and just smile in your cells. And if you don't want to listen to the Q&A, you can absolutely go about your day. Have a great day. We love you very much.